So I was just saying, these are my favorite episodes when I sit down with someone that I don't know really anything about. We were connected by Chase, and Chase is a good friend of mine. And he said, hey, this seems like a good guy. He's launching this company. They're putting some good stuff out there. You should have him up. And I was like, if you're recommending it, let's do it. And so now here we are a couple months later. And, like I was just saying before we started recording, I just like to get to know people, have a conversation. Obviously, you brought some of your products here. We'll get into that a little later. But I like guests to just kind of give listeners a snapshot of who they are, where they're from, what they're about. And then we just have a conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I mean, we already have a connection with Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I found out before the show that you're actually going to be paddling to Hawaii, which is crazy, from Washington.
And you were born there?
I was born in Hawaii. Yeah.
Where in Hawaii?
On Oahu.
Okay.
Yeah, Honolulu. Yeah, so that's where Waikiki, Diamond Head, the famous North Shore is and everything.
The haiku stairs. I've done those. The Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, which have been kind of closed off and people get in. It's just beautiful and it's just amazing that they were even built. Some of those things, even like the Cocoa Head Trail where they have those old railroad ties going up the side of a really almost vertical cliff. But it was back in the days when they had like military fortifications and they had to have like a railroad car going up the side to bring like ammo and things, and so now it's a hiking trail.
See, back before everything was nerfed, guys just went out in the woods and made trails that were basically vertical.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they don't want people on the haiku stairs. I had to sneak on them.
Yeah.
I wore camouflage because you're exposed to, what is it, Highway 1?
Yeah, well, it's H3.
H3, okay.
Yeah, which it connects Pearl Harbor and Kaneohe Bay, the Marine Corps base, and it's like this beautiful highway going through this pristine valley, and then you're just overlooking all of that. It's spectacular.
I remember thinking, is like, how big of an offense is it to be seen on this trail when you're not supposed to be?
Yeah.
So I wore like camo and
felt
like I was doing it all commando
if people
style.
Get stuck, and they need to be rescued, then it's like a big ordeal with helicopters and all, kind of putting the first responders in danger. But for someone like yourself, you're probably going to be fine.
That's why we just need to let people figure it out.
Yeah.
Starve to death or figure out how to get down.
Yeah.
I've actually had some people write me regarding that boat. They're like, well, if you have to call for rescue because we chose to do it unsupported, don't you think that that's an unfair thing for taxpayers to foot the bill on? And I'm like, dude, that's so far outside of like my thought process planning this.
Yeah.
And the real thing about big ocean water rescues anyways is it's usually just, hey, who's coming by you? It's not like 1,000 miles offshore, the Navy's going to coordinate some rescue. So,
and you're prepared with all the radios and the tracking and everything. And so it's not like you're just blindly going out there on a rowboat with no connectivity.
No, dude, I took every single precaution that I could. And literally the last piece of equipment that we're still sourcing right now is a life raft. A
life raft for the boat. Yeah.
A life raft for the boat. And the hole's neutrally buoyant. So you can break it in half and it'll still float.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't even put this out there. Like, I don't know what scenario you would necessarily need the life raft. Maybe if it flipped and you couldn't ride it. But the thing is, those boats are built to flip back over. So
yeah. So it seems like you'd be okay, but yeah, it doesn't hurt to be safe with that. So.
Well, dude, redundancy measures. Like I just bought a second desalinator today because the boat comes with a desalinator.
Yeah. And
then I bought a second one that's a hand pump.
Yeah. In the worst case, you don't want to go without water. So you could be without food for a while, but water, no. So, So anyways, from Hawaii, born and raised there. And, but then also another small world connection. In middle school, I moved to Washington State, where my mom's side of the family is from. So my parents split up. And so for 8th grade, I went to middle school in Spokane, Washington. And then for 9th through 12th, I was in Moses Lake. And so
sorry to hear that over on the east side.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not as objectively beautiful like this side, but I really enjoyed it.
I love it over there. Great. Actually, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Dude, like Coeur d'Alene is just out there too. Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
So like, no, I like the Spokane area outside of the hood,
Yeah.
But every big city has that anyways.
Yeah. And then Moses Lake is really small. It was like 30,000 people, just farmlands but it was great. I had, a good group of friends and got into snowboarding and go up to Mission Ridge and, by Wenatchee and snowboard a lot and all around the area. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. But I'd be going back to Hawaii every summer and kind of winter and surf there and ended up moving back after high school and have been most of my time there ever since.
Oh, you're back in Hawaii now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been back there for more than 25 years. I was initially back on the Big Island of Hawaii, working in Kona, actually on kind of the early origins of our product story. In Kona, there's in the lava fields where the Ironman trained, there's these ponds that were dug out and built to grow microalgae. And it turns out they produce this molecule that's really important in nature and has all these health benefits. And that was the start of this journey. But I was working there just out of high school, actually in high school for summer work. I would go there and work in the summers and work in the production in the ponds. And then after high school, I ended up going back and working with some of the research teams and looking at pharmaceutical applications thereafter. And so I've been in Hawaii ever since.
They have a bunch of ponds that are specifically created to grow algae.
Yeah, it was a couple companies, that one, our company and another company across the street. And the really just, hot weather, all the sunlight, everything was perfect, in terms of conditions to grow this particular type of microalgae, because it actually, when it gets stressed by the sunlight and the heat, it produces this molecule as a defense mechanism. And so that's why it's a perfect place to grow it. But again, small world. Another thing, there was a group that used to be in Hawaii. They have Japanese and Swedish origins as well. They had a facility on Maui, but then they ended up moving to Moses Lake, Washington, because of all the hydroelectric power, like Grand Coulee Dam and other dams. And so very cheap renewable electricity, because it takes a lot of power to kind of power the process to grow the microalgae. So they have a production facility in Moses Lake, Washington. So it's so crazy.
Yeah, between Washington and Hawaii,
yeah.
all the bases
all
covered.
These connections. It's crazy.
Do you know a guy named Joshua Dukes by chance?
No.
Okay. Because he lives in Maui, and that's the guy. That's the guy that's on my team.
Oh, okay.
And he knows everybody.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go to the grocery store with him without people like, brother Joshua, what's up? You know. So I figured, I always like to ask, because it seems like he knows everybody. If you've been to Maui, you probably know Joshua.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there. I haven't lived there, but most of my time on Oahu, a little bit of the time on Big Island as well.
Nice. So then, what's interesting about Kona is it's 7 ecosystems.
Oh yeah, Big Island has everything, all but one, except the Antarctic or whatever. Other than that, I mean, there's everything. There's rainforest and desert and the plains, and it's just an amazing island.
And you can just drive from one to the next to the next. We did a whole loop last time we were down there, all the way up to Hilo and the jungles and that big waterfall and whatnot. And then we went up to the top of Mauna Kea.
Yeah.
And dude, halfway up, the ranger stops us, and he's like, "Hey, you have to stop here for 1 hour or 30 minutes or something and acclimatize." And as soon as he walked away, I was like, "That's stupid." I've climbed Mount Rainier a bunch of times. I don't need to sit and acclimatize. So he just left. Dude, I got the worst migraine of my life.
Yeah, it's a high one. I mean, it's 13,000 feet, I think, and you're above the clouds, and
you're
I've done
going
it as well.
From sea level to 14,000 instantly. It's very different than climbing. Climbing has nothing to do with that. But we actually planned. It's called the Keck Observatory, which I just found out. My buddy Joshua was just up here training. He told me all the locals voted that down and didn't want that observatory built there because Mauna Kea is
it's a sacred place.
A sacred place, right? And they're like, we're going to build it anyways. Yeah. So now I feel kind of bad for visiting it.
Yeah.
But we went on the darkest night of the year on purpose because the stars up there are incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah, no light pollution. You're so high up, you're above the clouds. And I mean, that's why they do the research there. And it is a challenging, issue about whether you build or whether you don't, but it does bring money into the state. It funds jobs, and it does advance science and education in a way that I think is really important for humanity. You just want to do it in a way that doesn't, kind of damage the traditions and the sacred grounds of the Native Hawaiians. So that's always the trade-offs
bro,
there. But it's not like a resort,
It's no, but it's you can say that about literally everything on planet Earth, and it's okay, well, we like having planes. We like having cars. How did we get there? I actually just saw a thing on social media the other day, and it was a picture of an Iranian tanker being blown up, one of their destroyers, plumes of smoke, and you can just see it's a ecological disaster. And then below it says, but we can't have paper straws due to sea turtles' health.
Yeah, I know. The dichotomy there is
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Ironic. Yeah,
I'm not going to try and pull you into politics. I know that's politics and business usually don't go hand in hand too well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so polarizing, which is the thing, and I think we're trying to do something that helps everyone, regardless of what their beliefs are. So,
I say the same thing about jiu-jitsu, man. As like, you want to learn about like true equality, come train jiu-jitsu, because nobody cares who you are, where you're from, what religion you practice, your household income. None of that matters on the mats.
It's the same as surfing. Out in the water, you'll have a doctor or a lawyer, you'll have someone that works in construction, you'll have someone that being a student, whatever it is, old, young, it is all walks of life, and it's just everyone's out there. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like everything stays at the beach, and you're just out there, catching waves. And there's a whole pecking order and a way that you kind of function and interact with others out in the water. So
surf culture and jiu-jitsu culture has a lot of overlapping tenets for sure. I lived in Huntington Beach for years. I went on a surfboard one time and paddled out with one of my buddies who's also a black belt. And then we just talked jiu-jitsu for like 2 hours and then paddled in. So that's my surfing experience.
No, I mean, sometimes you have the greatest conversations out in the water, even if you're not catching waves. I totally agree.
So you grew up surfing then from the time you were little, or
bodyboarding and just being in the water? And then it was really when I actually moved to Washington and got into snowboarding that then going back, I'm like, oh, I really need to pick up surfing, because surfing takes a big commitment to kind of learn and not even master, but just to even be proficient in, because it's not like snowboarding or skiing where you take the lift to the top of the hill and one way or another you're getting down the hill. You're going to ride to some extent, but with surfing, you have to figure out how to catch the wave, where to be, and not just where the waves are and catching them, but amongst other individuals. And so catching a wave is already really hard, let alone standing up. And if you do stand up, you may ride it for a split second or a few seconds, let alone like minutes like you would if you're snowboarding, down a whole hill. So it takes a really long time. But yeah, I really spent a lot of time, middle school, high school, after high school, many years surfing and absolutely love it. Been on surf trips to Indonesia. It's funny living in Hawaii, you kind of escape Hawaii and the crowds to go somewhere like Indonesia where there's, almost no one in the water and it's really polite.
Really? And, I didn't know that was a thing out there.
Yeah. I mean, it can be really, really crowded because, there's really good waves and everyone wants, to catch the waves, but only, a handful of waves come in every few minutes, and depending on the swell and the sets and how consistent it is, you may be sitting there in a pack of people, of like 20, 30, 40 people waiting for what are just a few waves in a few minutes. And then it's dead for a while and you're waiting again. And then it's kind of like everyone's kind of jockeying for position, and certain people have kind of earned their position there.
Well, yeah, that's what you said. There's a pecking order.
There is. It's almost like prison rules a little bit.
I was just going to say, I think people operate, I say it all the time on the mats, I think people operate better with an understood pecking order. Yeah. And it doesn't even necessarily, at least in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't necessarily even mean like, oh, I can beat this guy up, so I get to act like it's not even that. It's way more subtle than that. It's just, we have an intimate understanding of each other's capabilities, and there's an underlying level of respect, and this pecking order just kind of starts to be developed, even unintentionally. It's just like we understand each other as men very well, and it was interesting hearing you say that, because how is that established on the waves?
Well, there's certain people that just put in their time, and so if you spend more time, you see this familiar faces, and certainly kind of where people paddle out and sit, you get a sense. I mean, someone could be clueless and just paddle out right to the peak where the waves are and kind of jump in line.
That would be me.
Like, hey guys, what's up?
Then I'd be getting jumped when I got back to the beach, or probably in the water.
It just depends on your attitude, but it's more about kind of being aware, seeing who everyone is talking to and who is comfortable and knows where to be. And then there's a combination of being, good at surfing and knowing where to be and catching waves. But a lot of it is putting your time and kind of being a local at that spot. And then you kind of are respectful, and maybe someone, you'll give them a wave if it's kind of, they've been waiting for a while, or, normally if you're kind of at the peak of the wave where it starts breaking, you're kind of in position to claim it. And then anyone kind of down the line from you should, kind of yield. But sometimes if there's someone who might be a local, has been put in a lot of time, you may just like let them go, or maybe they're going to go anyway because they're like,
so
this
he
is my
hops
wave.
in front of you, but based on who he is, you give it to him.
Yeah. Sometimes.
But if it's a young punk, then do you have to fight?
It happens. Yeah. I mean, that happens. Like people will get to either yelling or even fighting in the water or take it back to the beach, which is crazy, but it's unfortunate it gets to that point. Sometimes that happens when it's at like really intense places, because sometimes like on the North Shore, of Oahu, that's where Pipeline and Sunset Beach and Haleiwa and Waimea Bay, like some of these amazing famous waves are, and people travel from all over the world that are like the best in their respective areas and want to prove themselves there, because that's been the proving grounds for surfing for decades. And in that case, people are, it's very intense, and it's also really dangerous. People die out there. It's really powerful waves, shallow reefs in many cases, or deep water where you can get held down. Whatever it is, it can be dangerous. And so there's a combination of the intensity of wanting to be there, wanting to be in position, get the shot, get the wave. And then there's also kind of the safety factor where if someone is not really, that good or is a little clueless and paddles out, they can be a danger to themselves and to others if they're in the way, so that sometimes helps to kind of keep things in check and keep the place more orderly and safe.
It's like that scene from Point Break.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves gets jumped.
Yeah. Or like Blue Crush, and all these other movies. Yeah, I mean, there is some truth to a lot of that.
Can you get on waves behind people? Is that acceptable? Ride behind them?
You can, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
But obviously you go in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, normally, just based on the way the waves break, if someone is on it and riding, it's because the wave is already going to be breaking behind them, unless they're just way out in front of where it's actually breaking, it's kind of harder to catch it behind them. But sometimes like you may have multiple people taking off at virtually the same time. And maybe if someone in front of you is going, you could just choose to ride behind them and hopefully they see you and they kick out. But if not, you could just ride behind them. And some people do that for fun. If
you have any crazy stories that come to mind, the shit you've seen out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've had, like say at Sunset Beach on the North Shore of Oahu, it was a big day, which, would be referred to as like maybe like 10 to 15 foot Hawaiian, but in Hawaiian kind of scaling of waves, it's more like double that. It's kind of like people talk about, measuring from the back of the wave or whatever, but it's also kind of like a macho thing where if someone's like, oh yeah, I was only like 4 feet, but then 4 feet in Hawaiian, kind of height, it's normally like double overhead,
Sure.
And so when it's 10 to 15 foot Hawaiian, that's like 20, 25, 30 foot, waves like faces. And so I was out there many years ago.
That's crazy. You ride those?
I'm not like good in the sense of like the pros or anything, but I've been out there and I've
you're
surfed
out
those
doing
waves.
25-foot waves.
Yeah, I have. And so
bro.
the tough thing is when you're caught inside and you have to duck dive to try to get under the wave and not just get, kind of pummeled in towards shore. Those waves can be so powerful and so you have to try to get down as deep as you can. And also what people don't realize is they're not just tall, but they're thicker. And so when you're duck diving, you're kind of going through, and normally you kind of duck dive, the board and yourself, and you go under the water, under the wave, and you come back up on the other side. But when it's that big, sometimes you're going under, and then all of a sudden you either barely make it out, or in one case I've actually had to go up and over and then pitch back over the falls. And then the leash just broke through the back of the board. So the board was torn apart, and then I was carried into shore. And so experiences like that. Or another one where it's a really shallow reef, kind of a couple spots down from Pipeline. It's called Off the Wall. And beautiful kind of hollow barreling waves. And again, duck diving under a wave where the lip is coming down at me, probably like a double overhead, kind of like 10-foot face. And it's so shallow that when I duck dive, the whole wave kind of landed on top of me and kind of just pancaked me onto the reef. And I actually ended up cutting like both elbows, both knees, everything. It's just my whole body was like flat on the reef. So there's experiences like that. I've had another experience like kicking out of a wave, the board going flying in there and then hitting me in the head, and had to actually get staples in the back of my head at one point, and various injuries and things. So there's all those kinds of things. But there's also just great experiences where it's just such a rush to catch a wave, and just the feeling of riding a wave, and you're so present in that moment. You have, just kind of, you're in that flow state where you're just, nothing else matters. You don't think of anything else, and you're just kind of one with the ocean and the waves. And even if you're not catching the waves, just looking back at the land and it's beautiful, or looking out at the horizon at the, waves coming in, is just such a peaceful experience.
Wow.
But then you have the wildlife out there. You have, sharks and seals and things. And so I've had a situation where I was surfing at a spot right next to a harbor entrance. And so there's kind of there can be sharks that are more, frequent in that area because of boats and, fisher boats leaving things behind. And so I was just about to paddle across the channel because there's steps on the other side across from the break. And all these people were like waving their hands and they're like, big shark, tiger shark, and, in the channel. So I was like sitting there at the edge of the channel, just like waiting. And then after like 10 minutes, like, all right, let's just go for it. Paddle across really fast. It's like a 30-second paddle across the channel, but you're freaking out. You're like, oh, I hope it's not there anymore. So those things, or you kind of sit with your feet up on top of the board and just hope like nothing's swimming around you. Like say it's like dark. Feet. You try and catch your last wave.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you ever surf at night?
There's sometimes you can surf at night under the moonlight. Typically you do it in kind of small, easy waves like in Waikiki. But
is it true sharks feed at night, or is that just we're more scared at night because we can't see anything?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they might be more out and about, but also you can't see. And so if there's shadows and you don't know what's going on. And so if you're, sometimes after work or after school and trying to catch your last few waves before dark, and then sometimes
I know the sharks are eating right now, but but I gotta catch a couple waves.
Yeah, and so you kind of sit out there, and it's getting darker and darker, harder to see the waves, and kind of just bring your feet up on top of the board and kind of balance there, and just wait for the wave, and then just paddle and catch it real quick. Dude, and get back to shore.
There's something about being in the water and not being able to see. Me and my wife went to the Great Barrier Reef for our honeymoon, and we did a bunch of diving for like 3 or 4 days. And then the last night, the crew was like, hey, we're doing a crew only night dive, but since we got to know you over the last couple of days and we're kind of homies, you want to come with us? I'm not going to turn that down.
Yeah.
I wish I did turn it down because, dude, I'm telling you, pitch black. Outside of where your spotlight is, you couldn't see anything. And when we got back to the boat, I told my wife, I was like, I'm sorry if you enjoyed that and want to do more night diving, but I think I'm out. And she goes, I'm so happy you said that. She goes, I wasn't going to bring it up in case you really enjoyed the experience. I never want to do that again.
It's another world down there. And,
well, even in the day, everything's looking at you. Mm-hmm. And here's the ironic thing is like everything's looking at you, and anything that wants to harm you has the full capacity to do that, whether you can see them or not, right? Mm-hmm. But just having an awareness of what's around you allows you to just kind of relax a little bit. Mm-hmm. You have no idea what's going on.
Oh yeah. And how many times have sharks seen people and done nothing? And
well, dude, now that everybody's flying drones around, you see footage like that all the time, and it's like, and on one hand, it's like it's kind of scary, but on the other hand, it's like, oh, they've been doing this with us forever, and it lets you know how rare it is. Yeah, even here in Puget Sound, bro. Like, I've been an avid boater for the last 10 years, and took my family out all the time on our little, we had a little offshore pilot house fishing boat. But when I went out in the rowboat, because it's quiet, you're more immersed in nature, you're more present. I'm not exaggerating when I say we probably had 300 to 400 seals pop up by us and just check us out. And they're looking right at you. Eyes locked onto you, and it looks like him.
Yeah, there's just the
they
dogs
look like
of
little
the sea, right?
water
they
dogs,
pop up
right?
And they're like, hey,
and
what's
they pop
going on?
up and it's looking, and then they go back down. And then we had a ton of porpoise too. We probably saw 20, 30 porpoise over the course of 24 hours.
Yeah,
and it just lets you realize it's like, oh, there's a lot more going on out there than you realize. Like when you're on a power boat, just zooming around.
Oh yeah, turtles and whales and everything, and yeah, we're going into their world, and so it's amazing, and yeah, the more time you're out there, and if you kind of are present and observe, you can really see everything going on, and it's really spectacular. So,
are you one of those guys with a 5-minute breath hold or some crazy shit like that?
Maybe like a few minutes, but yeah, when you are like, that's the thing, like people don't realize when you say wipe out on a wave and you're being held down, the best thing is just to completely relax and give into it and just let it kind of tumble you around, and you eventually resurface. But if you're fighting it,
you're burning oxygen.
So you just got to be calm, and it depends. If it's a shallow reef, maybe you try to protect your head, and maybe hope that your leash doesn't break, because then if anything, if it is a crazy powerful deep water spot, you can kind of pull your leash to get back up towards the surface, because the board should be floating
it's
in
buoyant,
the water.
So it's always gonna
But sometimes it snaps and you get disoriented. People's eardrums pop, and then that happens. So sometimes in those moments where it's like big, powerful waves, it's a big rush if you catch the wave, or maybe even just like the camaraderie of a huge cleanup set comes and you're all paddling and scratching and trying to not get caught. And then, there's 20 people, and then everyone goes under, and you turn around, there's like 10 people, and then you go through the next one, there's like 5 people, and you're like, we made it, you know, and you're kind of laughing and there's that camaraderie.
Well, as I say, on one hand, there's a little bit of a rivalry, like you said, but I bet when shit goes down, they're probably best friends out there.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of that for sure. Yeah. Kind of keep an eye out.
I like that you said prison rules. Because I was actually just talking to one of my jiu-jitsu students a couple weeks ago. I said, you should come on the podcast and talk about this. He goes, I don't know if I want my past life out there to the whole world, right? So now I'm going to put it out there. But I'm not saying who he is. But regardless, he said, like, he spent a couple years in prison. And he goes, dude, you want to know the one thing I actually really miss about prison is that even like there's different gangs and there's race wars and all this stuff, right? But he goes, we all treat each other with respect. And if you don't, the rule is we have to fight. That's it. So like you bump into someone in the chow hall, you're like, I'm sorry, sir. Like everybody treats each other with respect. And if you don't, we have to fight. And it sounds kind of dramatic, but he's like, it actually makes sense and feels good.
Yeah.
He goes, then you come out into regular society, everyone's disrespectful, everybody's talking shit. Like nobody's held accountable for the words and the decisions they make. And he goes, in prison, it's not like that at all. And he goes, I actually really miss that.
Yeah. Well, he should take up surfing then.
You ever put on a wetsuit and go surf off the coast of Washington?
Not Washington, but Ocean Beach in California, San Francisco.
Okay.
I had a friend that moved from Hawaii and was visiting. I was visiting him, and I was like, "Yeah, let's get out there." It was the winter time. He had an old wetsuit that he lent to me, and that was my first time ever surfing in a wetsuit. And then it was crazy because. I mean, first of all, there was some, like, it was an older wetsuit, so there were some leaks in it. And so that was, you know, unpleasant. But also it was like you had to wear the gloves and it felt like you're paddling with oven mitts and with booties and a hood. And then when you do get in the water, your head, it's kind of like that, you know, like the brain freeze. And so that was not super enjoyable.
No.
Yeah.
Dude, the same thing with scuba diving. Because when I scuba dive around Seattle, well, I mean, I've never scuba dived in a dry suit. That would probably change the game. But same thing, 7 mil wetsuit, and you feel like...
Yeah.
But that was just normal for me. That was diving. Until we went to the Great Barrier Reef, I've never dove again.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago. I was like, Australia ruined me.
Yeah.
I have no interest in going diving in Seattle anymore.
Well, maybe when you make it to Hawaii after your trek, then you can do some diving over there.
Yeah. I've done a lot of snorkeling in Hawaii over the years. But just never dove again for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But no, dude, we're bringing a spear gun and a fishing pole. And like I told you, my buddy who's from Maui, he is one of those guys. A 5-minute breath hold can go down 100 feet.
Yeah, that's
all that crazy shit. So
interestingly, so my father used to be a lifeguard at Sandy Beach on the east side of Oahu, and it's like a powerful shore break. And he used to skin dive, you know, free dive in his off hours with his buddies. And he has stories where he would be diving down deep and then looked up and then saw a shark circling like above between him and the surface, you know, and kind of just like watching that and trying to figure out what to do and just kind of wait them out and kind of try to, you know, be a part of their world, but not disturb it.
Dude, there's a part of me that wants to experience that. And then there's a part of me that's like, fuck no.
Yeah.
But also,
one thing, sometimes people do like the cage, you know, kind of shark sightseeing, but that's totally different than being just out in normal. Yeah,
it's very. It might feel like a similar experience, but the energy is very different because there's no vulnerability in that cage, and we all know that. You know, I'm not saying that wouldn't be a cool thing to experience, but I'll tell you what. You know that girl Ocean Ramsey? Have you watched her documentary? She has. I think it's on Netflix, and I remember following that girl on YouTube or something like 20 years ago. And she just goes up to the biggest great whites and tiger sharks. And it's almost like there's an understanding. They never show her any aggression. I remember thinking, I was like, I think I'd get in the water if someone like that was there.
Yeah.
Someone that understood it and someone that was very familiar.
Yeah.
And then it's not that the energy isn't like, because you know, like even dogs, any animal, they sense the energy that you're holding. And then it can change, the interaction can change accordingly.
Oh, yeah. There's a guy, his name is Mark Healy. He's a really good professional surfer in Hawaii, but he also
Joshua knows Mark Healy.
Okay, yeah.
He connected, he's like, hey, you guys need to follow each other.
Yeah. And so he does cool stuff. He's done, you know, diving with sharks and all that. And so, yeah, just kind of like a wild man. But I remember like one day I was out, I think I was watching like one of the pipeline contests on the North Shore, and Mark Healy lives up there. And so he wasn't in the contest, but he would still get paid by sponsors for photos, and so he went and was like surfing like a break over. And I remember he was kind of sitting on the beach, kind of in our area. Like I don't know him personally, but I remember he was there, and he picks up his board. He's like, all right, guys, got to go make my living, and then just paddles out into like crazy waves to just get a shot. Yeah, so he has like a really cool life with what he's doing in the water, surfing and diving and all of that.
And then a lot of the guys down there, they do like long paddleboarding trips too, huh? That's very normal.
Yeah,
or maybe not normal, but I mean, there's a subculture of that.
Yeah. So you can either do stand-up paddleboard or prone, where you lie down and paddle more like a surfboard. And both are great cross training for surfing, or just great, endurance pursuits in their own right. Some people do it around the island. I used to have a prone paddleboard, so it's kind of like basically like a kayak, that you don't sit in, but it's really kind of tippy. You wouldn't be able to stand up and surf on it or anything, but you just lie down on it, paddle, and then kind of did a downwind paddle from like the Hawaii Kai area of Oahu, which is kind of the southeast corner, to Waikiki. And it just takes like a couple hours, but it's a beautiful, trek along the southern shoreline. And you just kind of go with the wind and catch the little, not even waves, but just like little bits of water with energy. Some people do the Molokai to Oahu, kind of transfer, and that could be in kayaks or in canoes, like outrigger canoes, but some people do it on paddle boards as well. And that's, I think, like maybe Laird Hamilton has done some of like the island to island hopping in that sense many years back. And so it's a great way to be out in the water, cross train, especially if there aren't good waves, then you can do that and get some, because there's nothing that really trains your paddling muscles in the way, like you could go to the gym all the time, but when you get out in the water, and if you haven't surfed for a while, you feel it, and it takes a little while to get back into the groove.
Are you familiar? I don't know her name, so I apologize, but there was a female Hawaiian paddleboarder who was like one of the best. They would do like even like races and whatnot. She would always crush. And then she got picked up by an Olympic team, some crew sport. Like I forget like what exact event. But Joshua was telling me, everyone's like, who's this girl from Hawaii that's never actually rowed professionally? She just paddleboards, And then she ended up being like literally the strongest rower on the team. She grew up doing that,
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Chris Malloy? So the Malloy brothers.
Yeah.
I guess they're legends in the surfing world.
Yeah.
I went to one of my buddy's weddings. This was like 2 years ago in Northern California. And we go to this beautiful ranch, and come to find out, he was marrying Chris Malloy's niece, and Chris was hosting the wedding.
Cool.
And ended up talking to that dude for hours about life and surfing and all the stuff. He said he'd do the podcast, and we just haven't never linked up and made it happen. But surfers just seem like fascinating people.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a different lifestyle, but it's.
And I kind of think, and I know I always compare everything to jiu-jitsu, but I always say in jiu-jitsu, you can't really be full of shit. Like you're out there, you're exposed. This is what's happening. You win, you lose. You have to accept it, how it plays out. Like, and because there's so many people in this world that like, you can just tell they don't want to confront reality. They wear a mask. They kind of, they stay small. And I think jiu-jitsu forces people to step into a realm of reality.
Yeah. You're confronting reality.
And that's it. And that's why that's why it becomes addicting to people. Cause it's like, oh, for these 90 minutes, I'm not worried about what my boss said. I'm not worried about that. Like me and my wife are stressed about this financial thing. It's like, I have to deal with what's right in front of me. And I get to put all the other things on the back burner for a while. And I would be willing to bet surfing's very similar in that regard.
Yeah, it has both aspects. It has that where you're just totally in the moment, especially if the waves are firing and it's just very, there's a lot of activity going on. Or when you're actually riding the wave, then that's all that matters in that moment. But you also have times of reflection where there's no waves coming in, you're just sitting there for a while, and it's a great, almost like mindfulness, type of opportunity. So you have a little bit of both of those, where you're just so present you can't think about anything else, and then you are also but highly present, but just in a kind of a moment of mindfulness.
But even when you're in those moments of reflection, like you're not thinking about car insurance.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
No, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, you motivated me. When I get down to Hawaii, if I have the energy, maybe I'll see about surfing.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, obviously you got to do it more than once. But if you can spend some time in the water and just do it a few times, it's great.
Well, there's another jiu-jitsu lesson. It's just you have to get used to sucking at something.
Yeah.
For a really, really long time.
Yeah, just to get like okay.
Just to kind of understand what's even happening.
Yeah.
You know? Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you care for nicotine?
No, I'm good, but I will.
Okay.
I'm loving this.
You said that is your first time having the sparkling ones?
Second time having the sparkling. Normally I've just had the powder version.
Yeah.
But just being in Hawaii, it's a lot to ship full cans and things. So we normally just get like powder form.
Yeah. Element hooked up the row too.
Oh, cool.
They're gonna supply us with 70 days for each rower electrolytes.
That's good.
And then I was jokingly telling them, like, all right, well, we pay like this desalinator pump is thousands of dollars to pull all the salt out. Yeah. And then we're going to put salt right back in.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me about this, bro. Like, how did this come to be? Where did the idea for it? I mean, you already kind of gave a little prelude. You were growing algae in swamps.
Yeah. No, so I mean, I didn't know what I was getting into, but yeah, I wanted a summer job. I had a truck, I wanted new tires, and so it was a cool job. And I used to work in a restaurant in high school during like the school year, but then in the summers, go and visit my father in Hawaii, and he was working with a company on the Big Island that was growing this algae, this microalgae, and they were trying to figure out how to commercialize it, and ultimately decided to bring it out as a dietary supplement, because this is actually what's present in nature and makes salmon pink and helps to power their swim upstream. So if you've consumed salmon, shrimp, lobster, crab, they're all pink or red because of this molecule called astaxanthin. It's in the same family as beta carotene, lutein, zeaxanthin. So it's this carotenoid. It's this natural pigment. But it doesn't just give them color. It gives them really important health benefits. It's a really powerful antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and helps them with all types of things throughout their bodies. And so in the case of salmon, it helps to power their swim upstream, where they're just wasting away, and their muscles are like basically deteriorating, but they're doing it to reproduce. And then ultimately they make it upstream, they reproduce, and then the astaxanthin gets transferred to their eggs. And that's why the salmon eggs are red as well, because of this molecule. And it helps them in their development and protects them against the UV light from the sun. But the microalgae produce it initially, as I mentioned earlier, as a defense mechanism against the UV light from the sun, which would otherwise damage them. And so this family of molecules, carotenoids, co-evolved with photosynthesis to help plants and microalgae and things, kind of survive, kind of in the harsh elements. And then it kind of worked its way, up the food chain. And so the scientists were initially thinking we can sell this to the salmon feed manufacturers, because for farm-raised salmon,
they're always white.
They would be white if you didn't feed them astaxanthin. So some people think that they are artificially dyed pink or red. But they're just fed astaxanthin as part of their farm-raised diet, and that's what gives them their color.
Not just, oh, hey, we want these salmon to look better.
Yeah, it helps
that
them
actually helps
grow. Yeah,
their bodies function while they are alive.
Yeah. Okay. So without it, they would be smaller, weaker, more prone to infection, etc.
I'm gonna try astaxanthin.
Yeah. So the X always throws people off, and so it's astaxanthin.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you could say Asta for sure. We did the brand AX3 to kind of make it, easier to say as well.
So when other larger species are getting it, like salmon, is it always a derivative that comes from algae? Is that where it's created in its base, worldwide?
Yeah, there are a few other like plants and like yeast and things that make it, but the predominant natural source is this particular type of microalgae, and then it works its way up the food chain. And it's in krill, even and whales eat a lot of krill, and so whales have a lot of this in their diet. So yeah, it's but the salmon, the shrimp, they aren't producing it themselves. It's all working its way, up the food chain.
Yeah. And maybe I heard this on the internet, so it has to be true. But algae is technically an animal, not a plant. Is that correct?
Well, there's different types. This particular type is the plant form of a microalgae, but you can also have, there's like a different trees. And so you can have some that are more like an animal type, and this one is more on the plant side of things.
Okay, so this is safe for vegans to take.
Yeah. So this would be considered, this is basically like a plant, extract. But actually after a couple of years of working with the company on the Big Island, which we and the company across the street from us that was also growing spirulina, which is kind of also popular in the algal supplement space.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, and so we were the first two companies to bring an astaxanthin dietary supplement to the U.S. market back in the 99, 2000 timeframe. At the time,
you guys are old school then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was, kind of finishing
Because
high
back
school
in
for me,
'99, the only supplement on the market was creatine.
Yeah, pretty much. Only like multivitamins or something. Yeah.
So creatine, it was Celtec creatine.
Yeah.
And then the Animal Stack vitamins.
Yeah.
You remember those?
Yeah, there was like
They're
crazy.
like the size of a ping pong ball.
Yeah. And then there was like, I remember like No Explode.
Oh,
like
that's
nitric
right.
oxide
I got addicted.
Pre-game or pre-workout. Yeah. Oh,
to
yeah.
No Explode.
That was good.
In Iraq.
Yeah.
It was like part of it's just part of my daily routine. I'd wake up and take that and just feel like,
I did before going to the gym.
Exactly what you want your soldiers feeling in Iraq.
Yeah.
But then when I stopped taking it, I felt off. And I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it's producing nitric oxide, which is kind of promoting, kind of expansion of your blood vessels and increased blood flow. And so you're feeling that.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I like to go off on tangents. Have you read James Nestor's Breathe or Breath?
I feel like I've seen maybe bits of it, but I haven't read it.
Well, one of the things that they've discovered through all the different tests that they've ran is that the nitric oxide in your blood increases dramatically when you switch to nasal breathing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's
there's a whole thing about nasal versus mouth breathing and how nasal is really important.
Fascinating read, especially since you go underwater. It'd be a good one. I started taping my mouth at night and shit.
Yeah, I've done some of that as well, and also I've done like a couple conversations with Aaron Alexander, who has the Align method, and he's all about breath and how it regulates your whole like nervous system and everything. And even prior, whenever we do a podcast, we'll start off with like a 5-minute breathing exercise.
Oh, do you have a good one? We should have done it before we started.
Yeah. I mean, he's the expert on it, but it's basically, it's kind of like the, taking deep breaths and kind of holding it for a while and kind of breathing out. And some people refer to it as like that box breathing type of method. It's, kind of like,
dude, I do box breathing. I still don't understand why they don't teach box breathing in preschool and kindergarten.
Oh yeah.
Because I deal with kids, not so much anymore because I like to teach the older kids, but the little kids on the mats, when they lose, they're emotionally hurt. They're not physically hurt. Mm-hmm. If they're physically hurt, we're going to deal with a physical injury, obviously. But more often than not, it's just panic. And I'll just sit down on the mat with them get on their level and be like, dude, do this breathing exercise, follow my rhythm, follow my count, and do what I do until you get control of yourself. And then talk to me about what happened and how you feel. And it's like, you do 2 full rotations of box breathing and they're back.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think things like that are so important for children as they're growing up. It's learning how to function, deal with adversity, deal with stress, reset yourself, your nervous system, but also just learning how to think and learning how to learn and rather than just memorizing facts. And so like my elementary school happened to be really good at just teaching you just how to be curious and how to think independently. And I think those are tools that are really useful versus memorizing, capitals of states and countries.
Yeah, for sure. You ever take any journeys into psychedelics?
Yeah, only one mushroom trip in the past year, actually.
Okay.
It was really profound and meaningful, and I've been wanting to do it for a while, and it was just the opportunity presented itself.
So I've also done a handful of mushroom. Like you can go and just take mushrooms and go to the beach, do it on your own, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can also do it more of a ceremonial.
Yeah.
Where you set an intention and you're with the right people.
That's what we do.
And I've done ayahuasca in that realm as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, somatic breath work gave me probably the most profound psychedelic experience of my life, completely sober. And I was in a room full of guys and there was like businessmen and lawyers and people that like don't dabble in psychedelics whatsoever, like crying.
Yeah.
And they're like, my life is different now. Mm-hmm. There was a 55-year-old, like really successful businessman. And at the end of, there was a 1-hour somatic breathwork exercise led by my brother-in-law, actually. He's a really good coach, Adam Carberry. And this guy sits up and he goes, I just felt love for the first time in my life. And he goes, full disclosure, in the realm of business, I've been known as being kind of cutthroat. And I thought that was like a title that I was proud of. He goes, everything changes now.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That's
just
super
through
cool.
breath work.
Yeah. And I think the lessons you learn, just like realizing that you're in the right place, everything is as it should be, and kind of one with nature and people and kind of that universal connection. Yeah, that's really profound. And I think that opens everyone's eyes to things that are beyond what you miss, kind of in everyday life. It's so easy to get caught up and have months and years and decades go by with not realizing, what's actually happening.
Yeah, one of the guys, he actually grew up in Tehran, and it was during the, what was it, the 8-year war or something, where it was between Iraq and Iran. He's like, as a little boy, getting bombed was very regular for me.
Yeah.
And during that breathwork exercise, he goes, I sat with 5-year-old me and we talked about it, and we like came to peace with it. And it was just like, that's what you hear about like an ibogaine or an ayahuasca trip, not just breath work,
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. It's important to put that out there, because a lot of people are reluctant to use any type of external psychedelic, and rightfully so. That stuff, people have an adverse opinion on lots of drugs. You can get to those places with your own physiology too.
Yeah. No, I think all of that now is much more accepted and kind of becoming more mainstream to explore those types of, and whether it's breath work or certain types of psychedelics, I think that's all coming as something that can benefit our minds and even longevity and overall health. But just I think if it can open up your mind and kind of reframe how you look at reality and people and relationships, that can have a profound impact on your life.
So you started this company initially in '99, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was working with a company that was growing this microalgae that produces astaxanthin, and after a couple years of that and launching that supplement and trying to sell it in health food stores, and it's hard to create a market for a supplement that no one has heard of at a time that supplements aren't even really a thing.
Yeah,
and so we actually thought this could be developed as a pharmaceutical. So like in the omega-3 fish oil space, you have prescription forms and you have supplement forms, and it's still the same substance. It's just a matter of the clinical testing that backs it, for a particular drug approval, like you take it for this cardiovascular, issue. And so we were thinking, okay, this could be developed as a drug, but the manufacturing and growing the microalgae is not conducive to pharmaceutical regulatory, kind of the stringencies and the kind of the controls that need to be in place. And so we decided to do it in the laboratory and produce the molecule exactly like you get from the microalgae, but rather than trying to extract it, because you grow the microalgae, which is already challenging, then you extract from that as much of the astaxanthin, the active molecule, as possible, but you still only have 10% of the astaxanthin. The other 90% is other stuff from the algae, other proteins and lipids and things that are not going to hurt you, but they're not the active component that you really want. And so we thought, okay, let's go to the lab and just produce the active molecule itself, the exact same natural structure, the same carbon and hydrogen and oxygen, the exact molecular structure, but in high purity, and then make it really well absorbed. So we did that. We spent many years working on that, but then also testing to understand how it works in the body and the cells, the different benefits it has. And so we did research where we work with like really top academic researchers who have models of cardiovascular disease, for example, and we were able to prevent blood clots, primary and secondary occlusion of arteries in multiple different species. We also were able to reduce the plaque buildup in the arteries when you image it in the aortic arch of the heart. So we had all types of really cool data. And so we did that for about a decade. And then the 2008 financial crisis hit and really wrecked our chance to continue down that path, because it takes a lot of money to do that. And we actually had a term sheet from a major San Diego venture capital group that was led by a icon of the San Diego biotech industry, who founded one of the first companies in that space that helped to create the whole biotech industry. He then transitioned from industry to investing and became a VC. And he was on his 6th fund. So normally you'll have VCs that will raise some money from their limited partners, invested in startup companies, and then based on the success of that, then raise a new fund and deploy that capital into new opportunities. And so he was on his 6th one after 5 successful funds. And we were one of the portfolio companies he was going to invest in. And he was working on kind of closing, raising his money. And he gave us a term sheet to fund us through phase 2 human studies, which in the FDA drug development space, you have phase 1, which is safety, phase 2, which is proof of concept, where you actually look at like a disease area in a population. And then phase 3 is kind of the big version of the phase 2, where you then have a larger scale study that the FDA uses to determine whether you're approved as a drug or not. Getting through phase 2 is a major point, because you prove that it's safe and it works in a target population. And so we had the funding lined up for that. But he gave us a term sheet in August of 2008, which is literally the exact month when the world blew up, the banks went under, and all that stuff. And so he wasn't able to raise his money, and therefore unable to fund us. We almost did a deal with Sanofi, the major pharma company, a few years later. Due to some internal politics at the company, the deal was killed. But we went through months of diligence. We were in tight with the CEO at the time, who really was championing the program. But then he ultimately, based on infighting, left the company a little while later as well. And so things just didn't happen there on the pharma side. But we had all these learnings on the manufacturing and how it works in the cells and the different health applications. And we thought, okay, let's bring this back to the supplement space, go back to our roots there, but do it kind of with the pharmaceutical rigor. And so we launched a product in 2016 in Hawaii, worked with physicians, educated them about the product and its benefits. Basically, it's a safe anti-inflammatory, because a lot of anti-inflammatories have side effects, immune risk, you're prone to infection, or cardiovascular or liver issues. And
so like most of them
do. Yeah.
Like
they work
NSAIDs.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, in the jiu-jitsu world, you see guys just taking handfuls of ibuprofen, and it's like, that's been proven to be so bad for you.
Yeah. Like in the old days, people thought, oh, it's fine. It's not, a big deal. And to take it every now and then, that's okay. That's what it's intended for. But it's not meant to be taken chronically, for long-term joint health or heart health or whatever it may be. It's not good. And it's because of how it works that the immune system is, built into your body to help you survive and to fight off infections, fight off viruses and bacteria or heal wounds. And so that's your immune system, that's your inflammation. The problem is when it stays turned on and starts attacking your tissues and your joints or whatever, then you can have problems. A lot of anti-inflammatory drugs work downstream. So after the inflammatory process is turned on, like the fire hose is on, and then they're trying to like mop up the water and prevent it from damaging, but it's kind of too late. And maybe you plug the hole here or there, but you're not turning down the pressure on the system. You're not stopping it at its source. And so that's why there's often these issues, because you're chronically inhibiting or activating something downstream that's not meant to be always on or always off, or way high or way low. And so that's why there's side effects. They may be effective in that moment, but over time, that's not going to work out well.
Something I've always wondered, and you could probably unpack this better than anyone. I've always thought, like, isn't the body's inflammatory response probably for a reason?
Yeah. Well,
so to always try and kill that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything in the body is a complex, kind of balance, and the immune system, so the inflammatory response is your immune response. And so it's like your fire station, your police, and your military. They are your protectors. They fight off the foreign invaders. They help you fix things, that have gone awry. The problem is, if say your immune system is on, patrol, surveying your system, your normal cells, have signals to say, I'm the good guys. Don't kill me. But sometimes those signals get screwed up, and the immune system kind of has a crossing of the wires and starts attacking things that are not intended to be attacked, and then that immune response can be an autoimmune disorder, or if you have inflammation. Chronically, it's basically because inflammation is basically your immune system coming in, recognizing, bacteria or a virus, whatever it may be, or an injury, maybe going in and kind of tearing out walls, cellular membranes, fighting them with free radicals to kind of kill them off, and then, rebuilding the tissues and all of that. And that's a normal, kind of defense and repair process. But if that's always happening, if there's always alarms and there's always sirens and there's always, first responders, if that's always happening, it overwhelms the system. And so you just don't want too much of it. You want a normal functioning military and, fire department and police department and all of that. That's the issue. So you don't want it all gone. It's not like not to get into politics, but like the defund the police versus like proper training and proper resourcing. It's kind of like that, where you need a group in place, but it's not all or nothing, right?
You can go as deep into politics as you want. I just am not doing it for your benefit.
Yeah.
Is always having cortisol in your veins causing a level of inflammation?
Yeah, I mean, so that's a stress hormone.
That's part of it, right?
Yeah, and so you don't want to have chronically elevated stress hormones, and there's some healthy stress like hormesis, where it's kind of like, say you're on the mat and you have you're sparring and you're rolling together and it's training and it's a good stress, and you can respond to that. But you wouldn't send a beginner in and have a black belt just kick the crap out of them, because that's gonna hurt them and not teach them anything. And so you don't want that
unless they said something like, "I don't think this jiu-jitsu stuff works."
Yeah.
Then we're gonna stress them. Well, no, I think humans are at a place in history where we're constantly stressed about stuff. Yeah. And I don't know. It's probably safe to assume life used to be harder. But it was hard for very specific reasons. Just like you said, we're fighting off the invaders, or we're doing this big dangerous hunt, or whatever the case may be. But then when you're back in your village and you're sitting around the campfire with your tribe, it's like,
yeah.
Whereas now it's like you're stressed at work. A lot of guys go home and then they're stressed at home and they got problems with the wife. And it's just like they never arrive at a place where their body can just relax.
Yeah. Yeah. Before it was targeted missions, then recoveries, and now it's just constant.
And even though it might not be this thing that's going to take your life or whatever, our physiology doesn't know that.
Yeah.
So you're stressed out about your mortgage payment, and it has no effect on your safety. But I tell guys all the time, the stress of financial commitments is way higher than the stress of combat even.
Yeah.
Like, because when you're in combat, it's very dangerous. It can be scary at times, but it's very cut and dry. It's like, this is what I don't want to happen. How do I avoid that?
Yeah.
This is what I do want to happen. How do I make that happen?
It's a clear focus on priorities.
It can be dangerous. It can be stressful, but it's also relatively simple. Today's society back home, it's not simple.
It's noisy and it's kind of death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's always something that is like the monkey on the back that is just causing that cortisol to just constantly be at an elevated state. And then I was a police officer for 10 years too. So I got a front row seat to that profession. They're the most stressed people in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's not only the job itself of confronting criminals, confronting drug addicts, like, you are always out there dealing with people that most people would not want to be dealing with. But then you're also stressed about the politics of the job, your chain of command, this new chief's taking over and policies are changing. It's like, it's always something.
Yeah.
And that's why cops statistically die 5 years after retirement.
No.
You do 30 years of just stress.
Yeah, your body is worn out, or even like the dispatch, the people taking all the calls.
I think that's the worst.
Highly stressful. It's just constant, the worst case scenarios all the time.
And you want to know something weird about dispatch? It's almost always, the dispatch office is almost always, it feels like a dungeon.
Yeah.
It's usually in the basement. Oh. It's usually kind of dark. I was like, we should put dispatch on like the top level with
views.
Sun coming in and
environment.
Stuff. Yeah, seriously, we should. Yeah. And it's interesting you bring that up, because that's actually, that's something that people don't really correlate as a first responder stress, because it's like, it's just some lady sitting in an office.
No.
She's still confronted with this traumatic experience on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so obviously then knowing that, do you guys market it to first responders? Is that something you've targeted or
not
like
specifically,
trials?
But that's actually a really good idea. And
I'm connected in that world if you ever want to do some test runs or whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that would be, that's an important demographic of people that have the hardest time buffering their stress.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I mean, this would certainly be beneficial to that group. And I know that there is some research with astaxanthin. We didn't conduct it, but another group in this space has actually worked with first responders in the fire department on some benefits there related to, I believe that was more physical, kind of tests that they were looking at, but certainly mentally and the kind of psychological stress and the kind of outcome, the kind of consequences of that could be impacted and measured, I believe, with astaxanthin.
That's a great segue for my next question is that who are you marketing this to? Is it athletes? Is it first responders that are stressed? Is it or is it one of those things that most people could find a benefit from.
That's true. Yeah, it is something that most people would benefit from. This is something that should be as well known and as well utilized as omega-3s, probiotics, things like that, or, protein, creatine. It's something that everyone could benefit from as a foundational supplement. And you could choose specific, demographics and go after them and probably be successful. But that certainly would take away from, kind of serving the greater good of overall society, because it has all these benefits. And so just to kind of go through that, when you take it orally, it goes to your liver, and then from there it gets packaged into your lipoproteins, so like VLDL, LDL, everyone knows about those. And they are basically the transport vehicles that take cholesterol, which is a key component of cellular membranes, as well as astaxanthin, to the target organs and tissues. And so astaxanthin gets distributed throughout your whole body. You get it in your liver, you have it in your gut, you have it in your liver, but it gets to your heart, it crosses the blood-brain barrier, gets into your brain, it crosses the blood-retinal barrier, gets into your eyes, gets to your skin, muscles, joints, kidneys. So it gets to your reproductive organs. So it kind of gets throughout your whole body. And all of your tissues and organs are made of cells. And the cells have membranes, like the walls, exterior walls. They have interior walls that protect vital things like your DNA or your mitochondria, produce your energy. They have their own membranes. Those membranes are susceptible to damage. Those membranes are built from lipids. So like the omega-3s that you take, those are lipids that help to replenish the structure of your membranes. But those lipids are highly prone to oxidation. So people have talked about free radicals or reactive oxygen species or oxidative stress. These are things, it's like rusting out from the inside. So your membranes can oxidize. It's like those lipids are almost like trees in a forest that can catch fire. And then it's just like this wildfire that spreads throughout the membrane. And when your membrane is damaged, you don't bring nutrients or glucose in and out properly. You don't, your inflammatory signals, get screwed up. Your energy production, is hindered. The cleanup of your cellular debris and junk is impacted. So all of your normal cellular functions can be degraded when your membranes become compromised. And astaxanthin perfectly spans the membranes. Some antioxidants just float around in the cell or outside of the cell, or maybe they get into the membrane, but they kind of disrupt the membrane. They don't just lock in. But astaxanthin perfectly spans across the full membrane, like locks into place. And so it kind of holds the integrity of the membrane, but it acts as like a fire shield. Like it just stops the free radical damage, the oxidative stress in its tracks. So that wildfire would just stop. It wouldn't continue and propagate throughout the whole membrane. And so the lipids are protected against oxidation, but also the proteins, which carry out a lot of the functions of your cells. They're kind of like the signals for things to happen. And also the DNA of your cells, your genetic code can be oxidized. Astaxanthin can prevent all of those components from being oxidized. And so it helps to maintain the integrity of your house. Or if it was your car, like it prevents it from rusting, whether it's the body or the frame or the various components or the engine. All of those things, if they're properly maintained, can function normally. So it's not like if you have an old car and doing like a hot rod version, of it, where you're kind of changing out the engine to have it be much more powerful, or lifting a truck to have, different, tires and wheels. But it's more like, okay, let's just have a pristine car that's maintained, perfectly, for decades. And that's what this is helping to preserve the normal function. Because if everything can be preserved, you can function much better for a long time. But the problem is, whether it's lifestyle, poor diet, lack of exercise, poor sleep, psychological stress, social connections, all of these things can impact, these normal critical components and functions of your cells. And then you kind of get off track because things aren't functioning normally. And then you're grabbing ibuprofen, or you're grabbing this, or you're grabbing that as a Band-Aid for the problem, but you're not. That's just masking, the issue. It's not, kind of restoring, the balance and the normal function in the cells. And so that's what this is doing. And so when you reduce that oxidative damage to all these things, it impacts these inflammatory pathways, because if certain things become oxidized, your immune system recognizes that and says, oh, there's a problem. I got to go in and fix that. So the first responders come and see that there's a problem. And now your immune system gets activated. Your inflammatory response is activated. But because we're reducing the oxidation, the oxidative stress, the inflammatory pathways don't turn on in those cases anymore. but they're still left intact to actually function as they should, to fight off if you have a virus or a wound or some type of injury. So it allows the normal function of your immune system, of your inflammatory response, but not the pathological kind of bad activation of your inflammation.
Does astaxanthin show to preserve telomere length like NAD does?
Yeah, so there have been some research in that area, and so a lot of these hallmarks of aging, it's impacted. So inflammaging, which is the connection between aging and inflammation, autophagy, which is the cellular cleanup. There's telomere length, and there's a variety of these aspects related to aging and that are really important. And so it can protect the integrity of your DNA, and so I think that there's a lot more research in that space that will be really interesting to see. But if you look at like the outcomes of the longevity research, we have seen increases in lifespan in worms and flies and yeast. And then we also increased this anti-aging gene in mice called FOXO3 that in humans was proven to be associated with living to 100 healthy if you have the right version of this gene, which was based on this really large cohort in Hawaii, actually, of Japanese American men that were followed for decades, thousands of them. And every reason they became ill or they died, or every lab test, blood test, all that was saved. And they found that the one thing, that this particular gene was the one thing most associated with them living a long, healthy life. And it's since been replicated in other populations. And so this anti-aging gene, we thought, I wonder if astaxanthin has an impact on that in this research model with mice. And it turns out it did.
Sure enough, it did.
Yeah, and so we're like, wow, that's really cool. And so this NIH program that is like the gold standard of lifespan research, they have these thousands of mice that are at the University of Michigan, University of Texas, and the Jackson Labs in Maine. And they run this longevity, this lifespan study where they have mice that, hundreds of mice with each test agent at each location, and they'll screen for the top things like the NAD precursors, like NR they tested, or rapamycin, metformin, resveratrol, all these types of things that may have promise for longevity. And they see if they give it to the mice as part of their chow, compared to the control group, they just eat normal chow without any agent, how long they all live, males, females, all of that. And in the 20 plus year history of this program, only 10 things have extended lifespan at all. Of those 10, only 5 have extended lifespan more than 10%. And that includes things like rapamycin and other repurposed drugs that are not necessarily super safe and great to take every day, but they might just make you live longer, even if the quality of life, who knows if that's actually going to be better.
Yeah.
So we were invited to that program. We supplied our astaxanthin to them back in 2019, gave them material, every few months to continue making the chow. And it turns out that astaxanthin extended the lifespan of the male mice by 12% with very high statistical significance, which if you were to take that 12%, and that's median lifespan. So if you it's not like taking someone who's already lived to 90 and make them live to 100. It's taking someone who lives to 75 and giving them another decade potentially. And in the females, it increased lifespan a few percent, but the females already lived like 10% longer than the males. And that's kind of something that's very common, in across
mammals.
Species and mammals, that females live longer. It's something to do with the hormones. It turns out in other studies, if you castrate the males, they also live pretty much as long as the females. So there's something going on with the hormones there that impacts the lifespan. But
so you hear that, guys? That's an option.
That's an option. But if you don't want to do that, then astaxanthin helped the males to catch up. And so this was the first agent in that 20 plus year history in this gold standard, super rigorous mammalian lifespan model to extend lifespan more than 10%. That's exceptionally safe. It's available as a supplement, but also has health span benefits. So we have data in cardiovascular health, cognitive, brain health, joint and muscle function, skin health, eye health, all of these things. So you're not just going to live longer potentially, but hopefully have a better quality and overall health of your life during those years. And so that's what's really important.
One of the biggest things they're finding in the longevity space is fasting. Have you ever done any combination of studies with astaxanthin and fasting?
We haven't done the combination, but fasting works on certain pathways in your cells. Like rapamycin works on mTOR, which is also impacted by fasting.
You're almost speaking Chinese to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but basically,
did you go to school for all this stuff, or you've been in the industry so long you understand it inside and out?
Yeah. I've read so many scientific papers and
that's
been around
the real way to become educated. You're living the life, doing the thing. That's better than any title after your name.
Yeah. So I did study, but it was actually more like electrical engineering and math and physics and things. And so it wasn't on the biological and chemistry side, but I've certainly been kind of studying it in the real world for many years and read a lot. And so you just kind of absorb it over time. But basically in the cells, there are certain things that sense energy levels. And so if your energy goes down, then systems kick into effect to try to conserve energy. Let's recycle things that can be used as energy. And some of these pathways help you live longer. And so caloric restriction or fasting impacts some of these pathways. Astaxanthin also activates or inhibits some of these pathways as well that are hit by fasting.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously you understand this stuff to a much greater degree. But when you are fasting and your body goes into a state of autophagy, it targets your dysfunctional mitochondria. It targets cancerous cells or dysfunctional cells.
Yeah.
And your body literally consumes those and through that process eliminates them.
Yeah. So autophagy is cleaning up the debris in your cells, and mitophagy is cleaning up the debris in your mitochondria.
Okay.
And so dysfunctional old mitochondria or other, damaged proteins and lipids and things, it's kind of like just junk piling up, trash on the street. So, if that just keeps piling up and you don't take it cleared away, it creates for a, dirty, unsanitary environment, dysfunctional environment. And so that's what's happening where...
Also known as Ramadi, Iraq.
Yeah.
That's
so
a
you don't
real
want
thing.
that.
A lot of third world countries with multiple story buildings, their garbage can is their window.
Yeah.
And the alleys are just filled.
Yeah. No. And so you don't want that happening in your cells. So that's something that with astaxanthin, if you're doing that, then you're getting rid of, because when you have those dysfunctional cells, they can become senescent, where they're kind of like those zombie cells that essentially should be dead, but your immune system isn't actually recognizing, isn't getting them, kind of cleared out. And then now they're just kind of there and they're secreting these bad inflammatory products that can then damage other things. So you don't want the junk piling up. You don't want the cells turning into zombie cells. All these things can be mitigated if you are doing healthy, longevity promoting things, whether it's healthy diet or fasting. But you can also just eat a diet that's balanced and, kind of not going to be, causing additional oxidative stress and inflammation, with like highly processed foods and things that your body is not kind of evolved to deal with, but sleeping well, minimizing your stress, your breath work, but supplements like astaxanthin can help with that as well.
You said lipids help distribute the astaxanthin, is that correct?
So the lipoproteins like LDL, low density lipoprotein, which is considered, like people think of as like the bad cholesterol, but it's essentially it is just a type of lipid protein particle that carries cholesterol and triglycerides to your cells. And so it's depositing triglycerides, to your cells that can be used to burn fat for energy, or it can be used to deposit the fat cells if you have too much of it. But it's also depositing cholesterol, which is a key component of like the membranes of your cells. It helps with the fluidity and the structure.
Everybody hates cholesterol now.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's
one of the most,
misunderstood.
especially for like hormone production and stuff. It's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, is that just your body's own lipids, or is it dietary? Like if you eat this with a ribeye versus a salad, is your body going to absorb it differently?
Yeah. So it is best absorbed with a meal with some fats.
Okay.
And that's why from a fasting standpoint, it probably wouldn't be the optimal combination, because it is a fat soluble molecule.
I see.
And so when you are eating fats, your body has a process to absorb those fats and bring those into the body. Astaxanthin, because it's fat soluble, can hitch a ride along with those fats into the body. And then it gets to your liver. And then when the liver produces the lipoproteins like the VLDL, for example, and packages it, those are basically the transport trucks that take the cholesterol and the triglycerides throughout your body to the organs and tissues that need them. And astaxanthin gets packaged in there along with it. So it's kind of like additional cargo. But those lipids in your LDL can become oxidized also. And when that happens, it's not just the quantity, people look at what's your LDL number. It's the quality of it. If it becomes oxidized, it can also, it can get kind of stuck into your arterial walls. And in those places, if it oxidizes, it can create plaque buildup, and the immune system comes in and tries to deal with it. and it creates this foam cell, which is like this unstable plaque that is then prone to rupture and cause a heart attack. And so you really want to prevent those lipids and those lipoproteins from oxidizing. And so astaxanthin, being cargo in the truck, helps to protect those lipids when they're being distributed throughout the body. So it's protecting those from oxidation, which is really important in the first place. But then once those lipoproteins get to the target cells and organs, they then get brought into the cells and distribute the cholesterol and the lipids to the cells to use to build, the membranes and create hormones and all these things. Astaxanthin then gets transported into the membranes of the cells, the outer plasma membrane of the cell, the inner nuclear membrane that houses your DNA, and the membranes of the mitochondria, and protects all of those locations from oxidative stress. And so like in the case of the mitochondria, where you're producing all of your energy, it's normal to have a byproduct of these free radicals, these reactive oxygen species, kind of like exhaust, from a car that's like the byproduct of producing the energy. Your body has built-in systems to deal with these things, built-in antioxidants, but over time they get overwhelmed, and then that creates these reactive oxygen species that then damage other components of your cells. Because astaxanthin is in those membranes, it can preserve mitochondrial function and promote energy production. So like there's studies looking at, say, young and old dogs where the ATP, the energy production, was increased actually in both young and old. Mm-hmm. So your energy production, if it's more efficient, is going to help you with everything from cognition, but also like athletic performance. There's a study in cyclists where they were at 75% of their VO2 max, so pretty intense exercise, and they were competitive cyclists looking at time to exhaustion, and it was versus placebo. The placebo group got like an hour and 12 minutes before they were exhausted and couldn't go further. The astaxanthin group got like an hour and 25 minutes. And so it was like an 18% improvement in time to exhaustion based on more efficient energy production in the mitochondria. It can help you be more efficient at burning fat rather than glucose to preserve some of your glucose stores. It also can prevent muscle damage. And so when your muscles become damaged, the membranes become damaged, it can leak out things into the bloodstream like creatine kinase, which is an enzyme that helps to take creatine and can take excess energy basically from your ATP. If you have enough energy, you can take a phosphate, and because ATP is adenosine triphosphate, there's 3 phosphates basically. And when to create energy, you kind of break those bonds, and that's what energy is in the body. If you have enough of it, you can take one of those phosphates and move it back over to creatine. You have this thing called phosphocreatine, and creatine kinase helps that process happen. But if it's leaking out into the bloodstream because your muscle is damaged, that's not going to happen. But the cool thing about phosphocreatine, how it ties into creatine, is that when you are low on energy and you have systems that sense, oh, my levels of ATP are low compared to di or mono, like AMP or ADP versus ATP, like 1, 2, or 3 phosphates, it'll recognize that, okay, we don't have enough ATP, but we have some phosphate on this phosphocreatine, so it can grab that and then help to create more energy from the creatine. So it's kind of like this really cool interaction between creatine and the energy production process. And so astaxanthin helps to protect that. And that's like some of the energy you might need, like a really quick burst of energy if you're lifting a weight or something, you need that quickly. That having that preserved can be really important for performance as well. So there's impacts for performance, there's impacts for endurance, and then also recovery, because you want some healthy, kind of stress and insult to your system, but you don't want to be so much that your system is broken down and then you're hurting yourself when you're training the next day. Well, you want to recover better.
That was my next question, because jiu-jitsu guys and CrossFit people,
you get beat up,
are hurt all the time.
Yeah.
Have you guys done any type of studies on how this impacts like an acute injury? Like you tear a muscle or you strain a tendon or whatever the case is.
Yeah, we haven't done specific studies on that, but we know in practice, like some physicians have used it with people post-operatively, and people do use it kind of just athletically, like Ironman triathletes have used it for many years, going back to the days in Kona when we first launched. And so
a guy rowing for 60 days might be interested.
Yeah, it's kind of like the salmon swimming upstream, it's protecting your muscles
Except
against
I'm not going
damage.
to die at the end.
Yeah. Maybe reproduce at the end.
Yeah.
But,
hey, you hear that, Jenny?
Yeah.
We have 3 kids. I've been cut off.
Oh, okay.
Our oldest is 11 now, so she's like, I don't want to start over again.
Yeah. That makes sense. But also, it can help you heal better. And so if your immune system is functioning at the, kind of optimal level, you're going to heal as well as you can. And that's what you want. It's a healthy healing and repair process, because you need to kind of tear down and then repair and rebuild. And you want that just functioning normally and not having dysfunction in that process. But actually, just as a side note for the paddling journey, in addition to the muscle preservation and endurance, it also can help against the sun exposure. And so just like the algae produce to defend against the sunlight, this helps to protect against damage from the sun. And so the UV light can basically hit some photosensitive molecules in your skin that then react with oxygen and create these reactive oxygen species that can damage, your skin cells and your collagen and damage the DNA in your skin cells, which can lead to over time, wrinkles and all the issues that sun exposure causes. When you have astaxanthin on board in the skin cells, it can take those reactive oxygen species that have been created from the UV light and neutralize them. Those things are basically these high energy states of oxygen that have the electrons spinning in different directions. They're like little Tasmanian devils that are just full of energy and damaging things. Astaxanthin goes in and absorbs that excess energy, kind of stops them from bouncing around like crazy, and they're perfectly quenched and happy and not going to cause any more damage. Astaxanthin vibrates as a molecule and dissipates it out as heat safely, and then can just do that over and over and over again. And so in that particular type of reactive oxygen species, it's like 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C and thousands or hundreds of times stronger than other antioxidants like vitamin E or beta carotene or CoQ10. And so it's just super potent at absorbing that reactive oxygen species energy that is coming from the UV light from the sun. So it's great for skin health.
I was just going to say, are you guys also seeing it? Because, dude, I feel like I've aged 10 years in the last 2.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm young, I'm healthy, I look like my skin doesn't look all wore out. And then in a matter of like 24 months, it's just like the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
Does that show to have any type of reverse on skin health?
There have been studies showing reductions in fine lines and wrinkles, increases in moisture content and elasticity.
All right, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Guys can't talk about this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I mean, it's, everyone wants to, feel good, look good.
I never thought that I would give a shit about wrinkles until I was just covered in wrinkles. And I'm like, dude, I feel fucking old.
Yeah, I should have done something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing, because obviously being in a podcast that's built around fitness and jiu-jitsu and stuff, I've worked with a lot of different supplement companies over the years, and Element and, the gym we work with First Form here. TRT, a lot of guys are using peptides. Like, people are taking so much shit now, and me included. Mm-hmm. It's hard to be like, hey, try my supplement, and then identify, oh, I feel better here, or I notice a change there. Now, you already said a couple things that piqued my interest about how, like, oh no, time to exhaustion is increased. So as an athlete, you should be able to measure that and feel that relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. What are timelines that people they use this product and then they notice a difference here? And it's something they can identify and say, I was this, but now I feel this, or whatever the case is.
So you can measure things like biomarkers, like if you're measuring your cholesterol levels, which it actually has helped to reduce LDL, or even importantly, oxidize LDL, blood pressure. So if you get your blood work done at any regular interval, you can measure those things. The studies we've done and others have done are often like 3 months of time. And you're probably not going to be going and getting your blood work done more frequent than that anyway. So you'd want to give yourself at least 3 months for measuring biomarkers. For things that are like energy, or in particular, a lot of people feel joint benefits. They have, kind of joint mobility, comfort issues, just from being beat up from, whatever it may be, like from working out or just life and aging. A lot of people experience benefits there. Some people experience benefits virtually immediately, like within the first few days. But for the most part, we say give yourself at least a few weeks, but ideally a few months to kind of let it really kind of absorb into your system and start to have an impact. But the other challenging thing is that it's not one size fits all for the dose.
Yeah,
and so you might take 1 or 2 capsules to start, and maybe that's perfect. But some people find a lot more benefit at, 6 or 8 or even more capsules. Like we did a study.
You're speaking my language now.
Yeah.
More is better, right?
More is better. And given the safety profile, like there's been studies done in animals where normally you have some toxic level where you give enough and then the animals die or have some crazy, side effect. With this, it's more like you just can't feed them more, and so it's kind of like having bodyguards or protectors that aren't going to do damage, but they're just there to protect you. And so if nothing is happening, that's bad. It's not really, it's not like always going in and activating or inhibiting something that a lot of things do. This is more protecting things from damage and helping to kind of maintain normal function. So it gives it this excellent safety that's been proven across very high dose long-term studies in animals, many years of human exposure with supplements. Obviously, we've consumed salmon and things for millennia, but you're not necessarily getting as much as you would get in a supplement. Like to get as much as one capsule of this, you have to eat like a pound of wild sockeye salmon or like 4 or 5 pounds of farm-raised Atlantic salmon. So you have to eat a lot of salmon to get these levels. Mm-hmm. But still, the baseline exposure to astaxanthin has been part of our, kind of diet as humans for many years. But in the supplement space, like we did a human study for 3 months where we had a low dose of 2 capsules, which is 24 milligrams, and a high dose of 96 milligrams, which is 8. And we had the better results at the 96 in terms of reductions of cholesterol and blood pressure and things like that.
If you want to do a study of what 20 capsules does, I'm your guy.
Yeah. So my dad actually takes like 16 capsules a day, and he's kind of later 70s and plays singles hardcourt tennis in the sun in Hawaii a lot, and used to surf a lot as well. And so he and his buddies have been taking high doses. They've been like kind of the mega power users of this for many years and have found benefits there. And so that's not the most practical, and that's why we've explored it for pharmaceutical, because for pharmaceutical we might like make a super highly concentrated form where you could get that type of dose in like 1 or 2 capsules or tablets, whereas you have to take a bunch of the supplement. But for the most part, people take, 1, 2, up to 4. But then if you want to explore higher, the main thing is give yourself at least a few weeks, if not a few months, and then you can adjust your dose and then see, am I doing better? Am I doing worse? Like maybe you drop the dose and see if you're still okay, or maybe you feel like, oh yeah, that I'm too low now, I want to bump back up. But you kind of titrate to effect, and it could be performance measurements where you look at time to exhaustion on the rower or on the bike or running. You can look at, your recovery, like how good you feel the next day to get back at it. Your sleep or your overall energy, your cognition. There's studies showing benefits for memory, information processing. So if you're having brain fog versus mental clarity, maybe you notice benefits there. Maybe your skin health, clears up, or even eye health. It gets into your eye and helps to protect against the damage there as well. So maybe you notice some benefits in visual acuity or tear production or kind of other aspects of eye health. There's a study in young children looking at digital eye strain from staring at screens all day, and it benefited them. And it was a low dose, like less than a capsule of this. For
my eyes just went to shit last year too.
Yeah, so it could
like
help
for the first time ever. I'm having to do a little bit of this when things are close up.
Yeah. And so over time, the eyes, kind of wear down.
You said you mentioned when you guys were looking at getting picked up by a pharmaceutical company that you were in the lab creating these same structures.
Yep.
Now that you're stepping back into the supplement space, are you still sourcing it through laboratory, or are you back to the algae ponds?
This is still made in the laboratory, but we're also going to launch another version that comes from the algae ponds. But
is that for people that want like
the more natural version?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's why we would do it. But
because big pharma is not held in a high regard right now.
But not necessarily because of the manufacturing rigor. It's not because it's dirty medications.
No,
it's more like the combination of either how it works, like it's causing all these side effects, even though it's fixing one thing, but now you create 10 other things.
You can't even watch television anymore.
Yeah, all the ads.
If you've taken this and now you're experiencing this.
Yeah, side effects include.
You might want to take this. Side effects include suicidal thoughts, death, and it's just like, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, it's like, oh, would I really want this? It's like an anti, kind of like a depression medication, but then the side effects are suicidal thoughts. It's like, okay. So there's a lot of reasons why, because of side effects. A lot of pharmaceutical drugs have been developed over the years where they'll have this high throughput screening and look for one thing that has an, activity on a certain target in a cell that might be misbehaving. And so it's misbehaving, so let's go in and knock it out or activate this. But again, you're doing something that wasn't as nature intended in the body. You're not restoring normal function. You're doing something that's different. You're just turning it off or turning it on all the time, like all gas, all brakes. It's not meant to be that way. Plus, you have the issues of pharmaceutical pricing, where you might have something that the drug is actually not that expensive, but they charge a lot, to kind of profit a lot. Which there's two sides to that story. One is just corporate greed and shareholder pressure and all of that, and the incentives being misaligned. But also pharma companies do need to recoup their investment from R&D, because it takes millions and millions, hundreds of millions or billions to develop a successful drug. And not all of them work. And so the ones that do work need to be able to kind of recoup some of that investment so that you have the resources to develop new drugs. So there needs to be some balance. And
then some don't work, and they push it on everybody regardless.
Yeah, exactly. And sell it for cheap overseas, but then, kind of charge more in the US where you have health insurance. And so that needs to be worked out in a better way. But in our case, we're pulling the good part of pharma, where it's like made with rigor. It's highly pure, it's consistent, it's well absorbed, but it is a natural product where it's doing something in the cells that's restoring normal function. It's protecting the cells, the integrity of the cells. And the pricing is something where this could be economical, for everyone. And even if it were developed as a drug, this would be more of a mass market, kind of lower priced pharmaceutical, rather than like a really super expensive type of drug. And so I think the reasons that people don't like pharma would not be relevant in this case. But with that said, on the production side, some people philosophically just want the natural form. Like, I want it from the algae rather than from the lab, even if your version is more pure. And we did a study, ours is more bioavailable. So we took a group of human volunteers, we brought them in, we took the algal form, like a leading version of that, gave them all 2 capsules, and then collected their blood at multiple time points over 24 hours, sent it to the lab, and measured how much astaxanthin was actually in the blood at all of those time points. Then we sent them home for a week, and so it all washes out of their system. There's no more detectable astaxanthin in their blood. Then we gave them ours, exact same dose, 12 milligrams, 2 capsules of that, measured their blood again, or collected it, measured the amount of astaxanthin, and we got 3 times the amount of the astaxanthin into their bloodstream from the same dose. So 3 times more at the maximum peak concentration, but also 3 times when you add up all of the time points, like the total exposure over 24 hours, how much got in your system. We had 3 times more there when you calculated that.
So just take the lab grown stuff.
Yeah. And so it's the same molecule. I mean, it's like whether the algae make it or we make it, it's the same structure, it's the same stuff. It's just how pure it is, and then how you formulate it for absorption. And so that's why, and then this is the version tested in that NIH study as well, that extended lifespan. And so that's why this one scientifically makes a lot of sense. But again, certain people philosophically would prefer the algal form.
Yeah.
And so we're probably going to add that to the product line as well, to kind of go back to our origins from the Kona days, that type of a thing.
Have any of your studies shown how astaxanthin affects uric acid levels?
I don't think so. I'd have to look. But it may be beneficial. It's not one of the primary things that has been researched.
Have you ever had gout?
I have not.
It's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I actually got it from taking Shilajit.
Oh, okay.
Which is another supplement that a lot of people swear by.
Yeah.
But one of the side effects of it is it increases uric acid levels.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think back to, even though it wasn't research studies, I think there were some people in our community that had gout that were taking it, and I believe they experienced benefits just because it is inflammatory mediated disorder as well.
Yeah. And you know what else shows to be very beneficial to that is I bought a Kangen water machine.
Oh.
Have you ever used one of those? So it changes the pH from, I forget what regular water is, 7 or something, to 9.5. Mm-hmm. But then I was just listening to Huberman. The other thing that Kangen machines do is they hydrogenate the water. Mm-hmm. And so the new train of thought is that it might not have anything to do with the pH level, and it's simply the fact that the water is extremely hydrogenated.
Yeah.
Because when it comes out of the machine, it goes into your cup or your water bottle, it's like gray.
Yeah.
Because there's so many bubbles in it.
Interesting.
And I guess that's been shown to be very beneficial. So
Yeah. No, there's really cool science in those areas, and certain things that in the past may have been considered like, fringe or like being backed up, or even like, psychedelics or other things, that are really coming into the forefront now as having real science and
it's
intriguing mechanisms.
It's cool to watch this shift where people are giving another look at like a lot of ancient medicines and Eastern medicines.
Yeah, because there's something there.
Yeah,
it wasn't for nothing.
It's strange that Americans are like, our medical system is 200 years old, and it's the only way, and it's the gold standard. And then it's like, yeah, but this Chinese tea that they've been taking for thousands of years, why were we so quick to write that off?
Yeah, and so it just comes down to the amount of evidence, where right now the way medicine is practiced is based on these large-scale human studies, and if it's been proven to work in this population in thousands of people, and the FDA said it's approved, then that's what people go after. And then maybe the Chinese medicine or other traditional medications don't have that type of clinical trial data behind it. But if you were to figure out what in the tea or the extract it has activity and maybe test that, or even the whole extract itself, if you did those large scale studies, there's no reason why they couldn't also be in that realm. They just haven't had the opportunity to prove themselves in large populations with rigorous science. But it's not to say they don't.
In a lot of substances, there's no money in it because like lavender,
you can't patent it.
You can't patent it. You can't patent it. Exactly. Like when I got back from overseas, I had a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
And that's very common with Rangers just because of like all the exposure to blasts and overpressure.
Yeah.
And I told my doctor, I was like, well, one of the things that makes me feel the best is just sniffing lavender oil. And this is what my doctor told me. He's a VA doctor. He goes, a lot of people find huge benefits from lavender for headaches, but it'll never get studied because there's no money to ever be made in lavender. So if it works for you, continue to do it. But we'll never know the mechanism because no one's going to invest in that because there's no patent to be had. So.
Yeah, that's the tough thing. Even things like with astaxanthin, that's part of the reason why it's probably not mainstream, is that it's a natural molecule. You can't patent it. You can patent derivatives like we have on the pharmaceutical side that still deliver astaxanthin to the body, but or maybe certain formulations or methods of making. But it's not the same as like a normal pharmaceutical where you can just create some new molecule that's never been in nature and then own it, and then, kind of
it's probably a better thing.
Yeah.
Although there's one of my listeners that's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to start selling astaxanthin then.
They could. I mean, literally there are other companies doing it.
Yeah,
and
I figured there was. I figured there was.
So it's part of it is kind of the communication and the education, the branding around that, and just kind of helping to create awareness for it, and then hopefully it becomes more of a mainstream thing.
Well, and I actually just met a guy last weekend who's started selling creatine. And he said when he started selling creatine, all his friends, all his family, they're like, the market's saturated with creatine. Why would that be a market you want to get into? That seems silly. And he goes, well, it's the most used and most studied supplement. And if the market's saturated, as you say, that would suggest lots of people want to buy creatine.
Yeah.
So he started a creatine company, and it's been 10 years now. He's making $30 million a year.
Yeah, I believe
selling
it because
creatine.
Because you don't have to educate people. Like in our case, no one knows what astaxanthin is, so we have to educate them on what it is, and then educate them on why our version makes sense. In that case, everyone knows creatine, and now if you can have your angle on whether it's the branding or the quality or whatever it is, you're going to be able to capture part of that. So there is something to that. Also, I'll mention. For people, whether it's first responders or military or athletes in contact sports, there is interesting data related to traumatic brain injury.
CTE.
Yeah.
Now you're speaking our language, because half of our listeners, or probably 3/4, are veterans, soldiers, firefighters, first responders, jiu-jitsu athletes. So we all have a CTE to a certain level.
Yeah, and so there's data with astaxanthin and research studies showing that ideally, if you can pre-dose it, so before, like if you had your whole military taking it and kind of in their brains when they were exposed to blasts and other things and traumas, you would have a better chance of reducing the brain inflammation and damage that occurs.
Oh wow!
But even post injury, there's been some work looking at if you've induced an injury like in an experimental model and then you dose with astaxanthin as quickly as possible thereafter, it can also help to reduce that injury. And so this is something that requires further study, and we're potentially going to try to work, maybe try to get government funding or to explore this maybe in the military.
You should work with MMA fighters too.
Yeah, MMA fighters, football players. I mean, there's so many interesting applications, and such a debilitating, issue, right? And so sad to see, and so many people are exposed to it in different aspects of life. So. again, this is something that, especially, it's one thing if you have just one huge trauma to the head, but if you have a lot of repeated exposure to blasts or knocks on the head, that's the type of thing where if you have this on board all the time, it crosses the blood-brain barrier, gets into the cells, into your brain cells, and then helps to prevent that oxidative stress and inflammation that can happen because when you're getting knocked or exposed to blasts, that's causing trauma to the tissues, and then the tissue is trying to repair, and it has this, kind of stressed inflammatory state, and then that's what leads to a lot of these issues in the brain.
Is it shown to improve sleep?
Yeah, there are studies showing. For instance,
I like that this episode is just a 2-hour ad, but it's a 2-hour ad that's fascinating.
Education, right?
And I like what you said. Hey, there's other companies out there. This is, obviously you want to promote your company because that's what entrepreneurs do, right?
Yeah.
But just educating somebody on what this molecule is.
Yeah, that's
fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if everyone knew about astaxanthin and took it, that would be like mission accomplished. I mean, if they happen to buy ours, great. But I mean, it's more like just if everyone knew about it, that would be like what we're doing this for.
Yeah.
And so it's just, that's why it's been hard, even though it's been tough financially or from a resource standpoint to do this on the pharma side or even on the supplement side, because we don't have a huge celebrity backing or massive brand partnership or something, where we have like tens of millions or hundreds of millions in to just market the crap out of it.
Yeah.
It's more like we're kind of bootstrapping it and trying to provide education. And even though we've been in the space as long as anyone and have contributed to the research and everything, it's a hard process to do. And so there would be easier ways to make a living, but the science just continues to mount over the years. I mean, there were only a couple hundred peer-reviewed papers when we first started. Now there's more than 4,000 peer-reviewed papers and 100 human clinical studies. And so there's a lot of research that's happened. And the more you dig, the more exciting it is.
Well, and I was just going to say, I can tell you're excited about it. You have passion around this.
Yeah, because
it's helping people. That's one of the things that I promote on this podcast all the time. I don't care if it's being a cop, if it's selling astaxanthin, if it's teaching jiu-jitsu. Make sure you find your niche that you're passionate about. And if you're not, it's probably time to start looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been spitting facts about this for an hour and 40 minutes, and it's very clear that you are very invested in this. You believe in this, and you're excited. And what you just said, like, I want everybody to be using this, regardless if they're using our product or not, because it's beneficial. It's cool to see. I love people pursuing their passions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great because, I mean, we kind of reflect on our own, like, why are we here? What's the point? And it's about, you make your own experience and connections.
100%.
But if things are clouded because, you're sick or you're injured, and that becomes your number one focus, that it's taking away from your experience when you have this limited time here. And so if we can help people with that, then that's, really rewarding.
Well, and people don't realize how important their health is until it's compromised.
Yeah. And then that's all it matters.
All the 20-year-olds that are listening are probably like, I don't fucking need astaxanthin. Well, take it from 45-year-old me, because I used to be you, being a young ranger, running and gunning and just burning the candle at both ends. And I don't know if you saw it. I call it the wall of recovery.
Oh, no.
And it's like foam rollers, massage guns, Graston tools. I tell the young athletes, I'm like, when I was your age, we didn't even know these things existed. Start getting ahead of it. Spend time on a foam roller, spend time stretching, spend time hanging, do all these things. So when you are 45 like me, everything doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And this is part of that puzzle.
And when you look at some of the top performing athletes in the world and the longevity, or people in whether it's special forces, whatever it is, like, they're the ones that take care of themselves probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
Like, he was one of the guys that was like, are you familiar? Okay. So I just assume everybody knows MMA, but he was one of the athletes that did do all his cold plunge, his stretching routine, his mobility routine. He hired a gymnastics coach to help him with mobility and movement and all that stuff. And you look at him now, he's my age, retired, and he looks exactly like he did when he was the UFC welterweight champion.
Yeah, yeah. Or in the surfing world, you have Kelly Slater, you have Shane Dorian, you have all these guys that have been like taking care of their bodies for many years. And I remember because I used to,
or Laird Hamilton, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, all these guys, and so they're totally taking care of their health and performing at a high level for well beyond what was considered the norm. And I remember, like, with Kelly Slater, he was going to health food stores back in like the 90s and 2000s before they were like cool. There were no Whole Foods or anything. They were like the random health food stores that he'd be getting good healthy foods and taking care of himself while the other guys were eating fast food or whatever.
No, it's a fascinating time in our culture to see Because when I was 10 years old, my grandpa was 62-year-old grandpa is just old, pot belly, would go to work, but then come home and sit on the couch and watch the game and drink a beer. Mm-hmm. And now you look at guys, you know, you got like Joe Rogan, Cam Hanes, these guys that are starting to approach that age. Mm-hmm. They're still jacked. They're still active. They're still running. They're still hunting on big mountains. And it's like, I think we're showing that the human body can do what the human body's supposed to do throughout the whole duration of your life.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, again, I went to college for exercise physiology, and now I own a gym, and I don't use anything that I learned in college, right?
It changes, yeah.
But one thing that I remember reading about was metabolism. And what you hear, what do Americans always say? Oh, well, I'm getting older, my metabolism's slowing down. And the science doesn't really support that. And so they did studies on cultures of people where their activity levels stay the same their whole life. And they went down to, I think it was somewhere around Indonesia, where it's like fishing cultures, where from the time they're 10 years old until the time they're 75, they get up, they get in their little dugout canoe, they paddle out in the ocean, they fish for however many hours, then they take their fish to market. And these different cultures that they studied, when activity levels stayed the same, body composition stayed the same. And I'm sure you know way more about this than me, but it's the truth about your metabolism is a big percentage of your metabolism is just simply built around keeping your body at 98.6 degrees. Mm-hmm. And so you continue to live an active lifestyle, take care of yourself, keep the routines going that you practice through your 30s and your 40s. There's no reason your body shouldn't continue to work through your 50s, 60s, and even into your 70s.
Oh, yeah, and beyond, for sure. Yeah, and because metabolism is just breaking down, you know, the nutrients and creating energy in your body and processing, you know, glucose and fats and all of that and creating energy efficiently. And the problem is, it slows down or kind of is dysfunctional over time because people are not doing the things to take care of themselves.
Yeah, and your metabolism didn't slow down, you slowed down.
Yeah. It's like, why is your car getting old and kind of breaking down or not running as well? It's because you didn't maintain it. It's not because it's just old. You know, it's things are kind of wearing out or breaking down, and that's what's happening. And so we just need to maintain that.
One thing that does hold true with aging athletes is like the degeneration of cartilage. Mm-hmm. And I'm dealing with that in my left knee. Anything with cartilage health? I know you referenced joint health several times, but is that like specifically like increase in synovial fluid, or is there any benefit to the actual cartilage or cartilage growth?
It can, I don't know about cartilage growth, but it can help to protect against cartilage degradation. Because when you have inflammation in the joints, that can come in and kind of like, if your cartilage is kind of like the structure, you know, holding things together, that can get torn down and kind of broken up by inflammation, because it's like wrecking crews coming in to kind of tear down and so your cartilage, collagen, all of these things can be broken down by inflammation. And astaxanthin does reduce not just oxidative stress, but the inflammation in your joints. And so we have reductions in many of the inflammatory markers that people measure when they're looking at joint health or arthritis and things like that. And so as a supplement, we can't make claims related to arthritis or diseases, but certain anti-inflammatory arthritic drugs go after, say, like TNF alpha, which is in the rheumatoid arthritis space. We have data with astaxanthin reducing TNF alpha, or like COX-2 or prostaglandin E2, that's the target for aspirin, ibuprofen, NSAIDs, all these things that kind of work on these downstream inflammatory bad actors. There's data with astaxanthin showing reductions in all these types of things because it's working upstream, preventing the pathological activation of those inflammatory pathways. And so, for instance, this was in a rabbit model. There's human and animal studies. Ideally, you do human studies. In cases like longevity, lifespan, it would take decades to do a human study. So you use like mice as a mammalian model. In other cases, if you're looking at joint injuries, you can induce a joint injury like in a rabbit model and look at arthritis and cartilage breakdown, and you wouldn't want to do the same thing in a human. And so like in this rabbit model, they induced a knee issue, basically, an injury, and looked at the cartilage breakdown, and astaxanthin helped to protect against that. So I think, again, for the younger athletes and basically everyone at any age, to protect against future breakdown, it would help with that. In terms of
I wish I met you 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about regeneration, I
need
a
time machine and astaxanthin ASAP.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, not to try and kill your pitch, because I think you've done a really good job, but is there any negative side effects? Is it fucking people up? Is there any are people having any issues with it? Because I always like to try and be transparent with my listeners. I took that astaxanthin shit that you guys were talking about, and now this.
Okay, yeah. So in animal research, there are no toxic effects that were found. There was only one finding in a female rat that was like a benign liver lesion that was not translatable to humans. There was no other issue in any tox study, and even that issue is not relevant to humans.
And that was just a
one-off study in females in rats at a higher dose that was a benign liver growth that, again, that thing is known to happen in these types of female rats and is not clinically translatable or relevant to humans. So that was, from a animal toxicity standpoint, the only thing that was ever found. In humans, there have been no side effects of clinical significance that have been noted in human studies. What people may notice is, because you want to take it with a fatty meal to help absorption, say you just took it on an empty stomach or you took a really big mega dose, it could be like eating beets where your stool could become colored if you don't absorb all of it. Some just passes right through you. So some people be like, oh, like what's going on? Like, I'm bleeding, but that's actually, like just the pigment going through into your stool.
So the astaxanthin is red then?
It is red, yeah. So our capsules, you'll see them, they're white, but and if you were to buy like the algal form, it's typically an oil suspension in a soft gel. In our case, it's a powder form that is actually, it's a water dispersible formulation. So if you were to put it in, a bottle of water and shake it up, it would be like Kool-Aid. It would just be bright red, deep red, but it wouldn't taste or smell like anything. So it's very interesting, but it's a red pigment. But it's water dispersible, so it disperses in the gut fluid, which is aqueous. But then once it's there and nicely dispersed, then it hitches a ride with the fats that are in your gut into your body.
I'm gonna Google aqueous after the show.
It just means water based.
Okay.
Yeah. So the fluid in your gut is water, not oil.
Got
is
it.
what it's saying. So because we have a water dispersible formulation, when the capsule gets to your gut and opens up, it dissolves or disperses really nicely in that watery fluid in the gut.
Okay.
And then, so rather than being all clumped in one spot, basically, so it's nicely dispersed. And then from there, the body can pull it in really nicely. And so that's what's really different about ours. But again, if you don't fully absorb it, you may have your stool become red. And that might be an indication that, I didn't take it with the proper meal, or I took too much at one time. But that's not really a side effect, or like a safety issue. It's more like a side effect in the sense that something you would notice. Some people, this is kind of common of any supplements, sometimes get some GI upset, but that might be because, again, maybe they didn't take it properly with a meal, or there could be something where the ingredients in the formulation that are not the astaxanthin molecule itself, but the formulation uses some starches and a very small amount of glucose syrup, which is sugar, but it's less than 1/10 of half a gram per serving, per capsule.
Okay.
And if you were to, get a drink and at the store, if you looked at a lot of drinks have, sugar, it might be 5, 10, 20 grams. And, that might be considered a lot. Yeah, a lot. And so, but if you found something that had like 1 gram or half a gram, you'd be like, wow, that's really low sugar content. This is less than 1/10 of half a gram.
Okay.
And for reference, the FDA threshold to label something sugar-free is half a gram. If you have less than half a gram, you can actually claim that you are sugar-free. Okay. We're less than 1/10 of that level. But that is used to hold the formulation together.
So if you're on keto, beware.
Yeah. No, I mean, this wouldn't even impact that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the starch content in this helps to create the water dispersible formulation. But if for some reason someone is like hypersensitive to like a food starch, carbohydrate, or like glucose syrup, even though there's such low levels that are not like relevant from a dietary standpoint and just used for the formulation, some people do experience upset stomach from time to time, but that's like probably with almost any supplement, any food. Some people will have that. Some people have reported improved sleep. Some people have also said it makes me feel like I have more energy, and so I can't sleep. And so there might be.
With that being said, is there a time of day you recommend it?
We have done morning and evening, but the main thing is with a meal. And so you could take it, you could split up your dose and do half in the morning, like 1 or 2 in the morning, 1 or 2 at night, breakfast and dinner, or you could do everything at once with breakfast or with lunch. The main thing is just with a meal that has fat content. And so again, for some people, it helps with sleep. Other people, they said it gives them more energy and then they have trouble sleeping. And so mechanistically, I could see a case for either one in terms of helping the system function normally and get into a state of rest and sleep. But also, if you're producing energy more efficiently, maybe you have more energy.
Yeah.
So to be safe in that case, I would, if I had to pick something, I'd probably say with breakfast or lunch, with fats would be the optimal time. Otherwise, there haven't been any side effects. Again, if someone is on like special medications or blood thinners or things like that, you would always want to just be careful and work with your doctor in those types of situations.
Work with your doctor who knows nothing about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, more and more of them do. But we have actually presented to thousands of physicians over the years. And so more and more of them, especially the ones that are more like in the functional medicine space or that are kind of trying to be more proactive about health and not just prescribe whatever medication and get the patient out of the office. A lot more and more of them are aware of it. But yeah, the main thing is just if you are on other medications, to just kind of monitor and be safe. But there are no known conflicts with other medications in human studies. There was one study in 2 people back almost more than 25 years ago that showed some impacts on some of the liver enzymes that process drugs, metabolize them. But that hasn't been replicated in other studies, and that was just in N of 2. And if in any case, most drugs also impact those liver enzymes that metabolize drugs. And so that's why sometimes there's interactions where it's like, don't take this drug and that drug together. Yeah. This, for the most part, has always been shown to play well with other supplements and drugs and foods. And so, but again, if someone has a very unique health situation or disease or medications, it would be important to monitor that. But I'll mention, even though we prevented blood clots in multiple animal species, it didn't do it by thinning the blood. It did it by mitigating the inflammatory situation that was kind of prone to causing the clot to happen.
Oh, I see.
And so, but in those same studies, it still allowed normal clotting, like normal wound healing. Like for instance, in a study in a dog, you could cut the tongue a little bit, or you could cut the tail of a rodent and see if they can clot and heal the wound, even though you prevented the blood clot like in the heart. In those cases, it was shown to still do that. So you still have normal clotting, healthy clotting.
I see. Yeah,
but not the
You're
bad
not
clotting
turn yourself
in the artery.
into a hemophiliac.
Yeah. So that's the type of thing. But again, if someone
who's
is
cutting
blood
dogs' tongues?
That's in research. It's crazy. Yeah, like it's they'll look at
all the listeners are on board with you, and now they're like, oh, hold on a second.
Well, it wasn't our research, but it was other research. But yeah, that's the type of thing where, again, like in order to get a drug, to invest the money to do a huge human study to see if something prevents blood clots in humans, you have to make sure it works, for the most part in animals first. That's just how research is done.
More than most humans, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, ideally you would not do it. Yeah. And maybe with AI, there will be advances to not have to do any non-clinical like animal research. That would be amazing. It's just the way that science has worked for many years. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's there's the whole ethics with that, and it's so sad to see these facilities that have these animals that are just used for laboratory purposes. I mean, I've seen those facilities, and they do try to take good care of the animals that are there, and kind of give them good lives while they're there. But it's still, it's a very challenging use case.
There's a dichotomy to it for sure, though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours. 2 more questions, and then I'll let you kind of wrap it up with what you want to share. Would you have any interest in sponsoring 4 guys rowing to Hawaii? See how we like your product?
For sure.
And we could swap to put like your logos on the boat and stuff.
Sure. I mean, even if you just want to just take it and use it and just tell us, report back and tell your community about it.
Yeah, but I'd like to get some eyes on your stuff and like just let people know what we're doing.
Yeah. Would love to support that. I mean, it's this is something. There's actually a lady doing the Iditarod who wants to use it not just for herself but for her dogs.
Oh, wow.
So we sent her a bunch of products.
Okay.
And
then the last thing is if listeners want to try this specific product, what would be is there a way you would want to track that with a code or a link, or just go to our website and check it out?
Yeah, our website, AX3.life, and we'd be happy to give a discount to your community. And so if you have like a typical code that you might use with your community, we can have that set up and give them 20% off their first order. So
okay, let's do that then. Yeah, normally the podcast is called Endless Endeavor.
Yep.
And so most companies I work with, it's just coupon code ENDLESS.
Endless. Okay.
Or endless
we'll do that.
20 or whatever the percentage is.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll just do endless. And it'll be a 20% discount for everyone on their first order.
Okay. And I'll put it in the show notes below so you guys can just swipe up, click that, and check it out. So any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts would just be, hopefully everyone is interested in this. If they want, they can go online and don't have to believe me. They can go and research more and read more about it. You know, the advances with AI, it's crazy because a few years ago, you'd have hallucinations and made up studies and things if you asked. But now it's actually like,
it's
crazy.
Better?
It's much better.
Because me and ChatGPT fight about shit all the time. Because I ask a simple question, you just know it's full of shit.
Yeah.
And you call it out and it says,
"Oh, I'm sorry."
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, and it used to be that way with this, where I'd ask about a study with astaxanthin or an impact on this mechanism or this health outcome, and then it would give me something, and then I would link to the study, and then it would be like a page not found. I'm like, did you just make up this reference? Because that's not there. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. But now like it actually gives real references, and it's much better. And so whether it's Gemini or GPT, I found it to be really helpful, especially for people that don't know how to go to, say, PubMed, which is like the National Archive of peer-reviewed published literature, and go and like search and read through. And it's cumbersome to do that, even as a scientist. And so I mean, that's the ideal way though, is you read the literature, but you have to have a whole background and understanding of science and terminology. And so for those that don't have that and don't want to just generally just trust a random person to say, oh, try this, they can use those tools to learn more about astaxanthin, what it is, how it works in cells, how it helps this or that. And like you've had questions like, oh, does it help this or that? Yeah. It may be able to help, because there's 4,000 papers on this. And so, no one has read every single one, because there's a whole international research community that have advanced the science on this. And so I think it's helpful to kind of, look into it more, read more about it. But then ultimately, when you hopefully do try it, give yourself some time. Don't just take it for a week and decide if it worked for me. Yeah, or take it and then be like, and then just stop, or be like, oh yeah, I'm good. I don't have any inflammation. Like everyone is going to be, faced with some oxidative stress and inflammation based on their diet, lifestyle, exposure to the elements, physical pursuits. All of these things, challenge the body, and especially over time, as systems break down, things like this can really help to protect you. So you want to give yourself appropriate time. And then you want to, find that dose and adjust as needed. Ideally, measure biomarkers if you can, like your normal blood work. Important ones would be, in particular, oxidized LDL, which is not available everywhere, but if you can, that's a great one. Of course, normal like LDL levels and other advanced kind of cardiovascular panels like ApoB and LP(a) and all these other kind of more currently popular lipid measurements are really important. Liver enzymes, but then importantly, like, if you do have athletic pursuits, then you can look at, various, like time to exhaustion, or, maybe just what pace you can hold for a given, whether it's running or cycling or whatever it may be. Again, recovery, sleep. So just try to be aware of those things and monitor. And then you can cycle off and see, maybe you'll notice that, oh, actually, I can actually see a decline in whatever performance or how I'm feeling, and then go back on.
Better get back on.
Yeah, but it is meant to be taken all the time. It's not like a one and done and I'm fixed, I'm better. This is meant to be kind of a daily health longevity, support agent that should be as foundational as if you're taking a multivitamin or a fish oil or probiotic or protein or creatine. Like, it should be part of your basic stack for virtually everyone. And it could be for yourself, it could be for your kids, it could be for your parents, your grandparents, whatever. I mean, virtually everyone can benefit at any stage in life.
Okay. Do you guys have any social media that you interact with customers or athletes with?
Yeah, AX3.life on Instagram. And then I also have my own personal that I just recently opened up to make public, just to give a little bit more, kind of personal touch to it.
So if people have questions, you're comfortable with them hitting me up there?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so I guess just give me all that when we're done here. I'll add all that in the show notes below, however you want people to be able to reach you. And this was fascinating.
Yeah.
A 2 hour. I'm not even gonna have an ad for today's episode because this was the 2 hour ad. But I just love, like I said, I love people that are good at what they do, that are passionate about what they do. Just sitting here talking to you, it's clear as day. You've put so much of your life energy into this, and you take it serious, and you're having fun with it, and you're it's just something inspiring to see. Regardless of what people do, be good at it and have passion around it, and you'll see that like this whole journey of life shifts dramatically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see and say the same about you as well with what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's helping people, right? I mean, it's helping you, but it's helping everyone too.
For sure,
so,
man.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And yeah, walking away from like what I felt like was the rat race in law enforcement and then pursuing something that's interesting for me. It's like, and I get it. A lot of people, I say it all the time. A lot of people are in a position where they're not able to just close one door and open a new one, right? But the sooner you start thinking about it and planning it, there are other opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And it could be running a jiu-jitsu academy or creating Astaxanthin, but life can be exciting and life can lead you down things that are fun to pursue, connect you with good people, and just get to do the thing we're supposed to do as people. So
for sure.
Thank you for coming up, man. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks. Loved it.